Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to Grammar and Usage Mini Lessons. This one is session number 2, and we're going to look at parts of speech. In the previous session, we looked at the basic structure of the English sentence, that is the subject and the predicate, or the subject, verb, object kind of organization. Today, or in this session, what we're going to do is look at and try and understand that any word in the English language belongs to one of these 8 categories of words. Yeah, or in a sentence, these are 8 possible functions that are served by words. So a word can be a noun or a pronoun or a verb or an adjective or an adverb, etc., etc., right? So we look at each of these terms, we'll try and understand the meaning, and we'll see how they function in a sentence. Yeah. Okay, so first up are nouns. Nouns are names of people, places, and things, right? Now, things could be things or objects that can be perceived through the senses. We have 5 senses, so anything that can be perceived through these 5 senses is a thing. Also, objects that cannot be seen through the sense but are a concept or a construct in the head, right? There's a concept of it, there's a construct of it in the head. So you can't see honesty. It's not you can't touch honesty, but you know what it is, right? Uh, so basically physical or abstract, right? Things you can see in the real world and things you can perceive in the world of ideas. So name of any of those things is basically a noun. So Ram, Sham, Savita, uh, groups, name for groups or classes also are nouns. So like boy, girls, lawyers, doctors are also nouns. Names of places: Delhi, Bombay, Berlin, Calcutta. Names of objects that you can see in the world: car, telephone, telescope, anything that you can see, any object that you can see: table, chair, bed, pillow, etc. And some concepts, for example, honesty, kindness. A circle is a concept, right? You can see a circle in the physical world, but a circle can exist in your head also. Shape, now a circle, a square, rectangle, a triangle, all of these objects will come under the category of shape. So all of these are nouns. So nouns of specific things, nouns of general things or categories, nouns of animals, nouns of anything that you can imagine or anything that you can see in the world. The names of things are nouns, right? Now we saw in the previous session that the basic structure was subject, verb, object. So ask yourself, where will the names go? Right? The names will go either in the subject or in the object. The verb is an action, right? We'll come to what a verb is, but just try and understand the idea that the nouns are present either in the subject or in the object, right? The verb is the action. So we looked at the previous session and we understood that there is a character, which is basically a noun, and there is a verb or an action, right? So we are looking at nouns right now. So the names will belong to either the subject position or the object position, or there will be a later, when we look at pronouns, there will be a subjective case or the objective case. So just be aware of it. There will be another separate session on nouns because there are a lot of details of nouns. For example, what are common nouns, what are proper nouns, what are collective nouns, and what is gender in nouns, and what is singular and plural in nouns. Or maybe you can start researching on your own also. But this is just the basic introduction and the definition of what a noun is, and just understanding a few examples, right? There will be a separate session detailing out nouns. Next up is adjectives. Now, there are nouns, so think the world is full of nouns, right? Tables and chairs and beds and doors and houses, etc. But that is not enough for us to operate in the world, right? We need a little more information. So let's say I'm standing in a field and somebody says, go to the house. So I want to know which house. So he will say the big house or the small house or the red house or the blue house, right? Or the big table or the small table, right? Or if I want some food, so how much food do I want? So some more extra information about nouns has to be given, right? For better understanding. Otherwise life would be very, very simple otherwise, right? A house will only be one kind of house. So because there are different kinds of houses are possible, there is variety possible. So I want to add more information to a noun, right? So for example, Ram is a boy, and I can say Ram is a tall boy. So this tall word is giving me more information about the boy, which was a noun. So adjectives are words which describe, qualify, or give more information about nouns. Okay. So there are five mangoes on the big table. So look at the words five and big. Five is giving me information about mangoes. The arrow diagram should help in understanding the relationship that adjectives have with nouns. Like they put a shadow over the nouns. If I remove the five, there will be just mangoes, and if I remove the big, there will be just a table, right? So big is giving me information about the table, right? I want some rice. Some is giving me information about rice, so it's an adjective. Or any word which qualifies or describes or give more information about a noun is an adjective, right? Also try and understand this arrow diagram, because it shows you very clearly how adjectives are modifying or operating upon a noun, right? So that visualization is fairly important for later, especially for later purposes, right? So adjectives describe or qualify nouns. Okay, pronouns now. Pronouns are words used in place of a noun, used instead of a noun, right? So they replace and refer to a noun, right? Which has been mentioned earlier in the sentence, or maybe later also. So, for example, examples are often easier to understand. Ram is a brave boy. He never cries. I could have also rephrased the sentence as Ram is a brave boy. Ram never cries, right? Now, instead of repeating the noun Ram, I can replace Ram with the pronoun he, right? So that's the basic idea of pronouns. Once again, there will be a separate session on a pronoun where we look at what are the subjective pronouns and objective pronoun. Remember, we are now getting comfortable, or should be getting comfortable, with the word subject and the object, right? Subject is the doer of the action, object is the receiver of the action, right? So there will be subjective pronouns and objective pronouns. There will be gender involved in pronoun. There will be again issues of numbers involved, or singular or plural pronouns, etc. But for now, just understand the concept that pronouns are used in place of a noun, and look at a few pronouns. A few pronouns are listed here for your, just to grasp the idea for now. Okay, so now the world is full of nouns, or people, places, and things, right? But a lot of time there is some action also happening. So there are people, and often times these people are involved in some or the other action. So or they are in some state, right? So they are just doing, they're just being, right? So for example, somebody is sleeping, or somebody is stupid. So he's not doing anything, he belongs to a particular state, maybe temporarily, but he belongs to a certain state. So there is a lot of action, or there's a lot of belonging to a state, right? So Ram is a boy, right? So Ram as a character is in a state of being a boy, right? Or Ram is playing. That means Ram is taking an action of playing. So there are verbs are action words, right? We looked at the structure earlier. Subjects take action, or subjects perform the verb. So Ram works at the factory. Ram has been studying. Ram was working. John is, this is part. Apples are. So there will be action or state words. So works, has been studying, was working is an example of action. Is and are is an example of being in a state, right? John is a good boy. Being a good boy is a state, and John belongs to that state. Uh, apples are good for health, right? So apple is not taking any particular action. Apples just is, or apple just are in a particular state or category which is good for health, right? So try and get this basic idea. Once again, verbs are of different kind. And especially in verbs, there is a concept of time involved, or something known as tenses. So works and working or has been working show different kind of time. Now, nouns don't have time. Nouns have gender and cases and singular and plural, but nouns don't have time, because your name, whatever your name is right now in the present, remains the same in the past and remains the same in the future, right? Your name does not change according to time. But action, because I want to share what, at what particular time the action is happening, because that is very very important, right? In our day to day life, the fire is the fire happening right now? Was the fire happening yesterday? Or is it going to happen in future, tomorrow, 5 days later? Is very very important for me to understand the time factor of an action. So that's why there is something also known as tenses in verbs. So that's why verbs will take various forms. But just now, for now, today, understand that verbs are action words, or verbs are state word. This is and are very very common words. Have, has, doing, being, and all of these words involved are to do with verbs or actions or states. Okay, moving on to adverbs. Adverbs is another form of a modifier. A modifier that we looked at earlier was an adjective. An adjective was giving us extra information about the noun, right? It was giving us more information about the noun, or describing the noun, or modifying or qualifying various words that you can use to explain the process. Similarly, adverbs are used to add something to the information of the verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So, adjective was a modifier for only a noun, and adverb is a modifier for anything else. So when you're modifying a verb or an adjective or another adverb, such a word will be functioning as an adverb, right? Adverb, adding to the verb. So examples will make more sense. Ram works fast. So now if I look at the word fast, it is giving us information about the quality of work, right? How the work is done. So Ram could also be working slowly. Ram works slowly, right? So fast or slow is describing the quality of the action or the verb. Therefore, this word fast is acting as an adverb. Sita sings well. This word well is modifying or defining further the action sing. Therefore, it is acting as an adverb, right? Another idea that we want to introduce right now is that when we're talking about adjectives or adverbs or just verbs or any other parts of speech, we're not only talking about a single word, it could be a phrase or a clause also, right? We haven't discussed what a phrase or clause is. Just think of it in terms of a partial sentence. I mean, it is not a complete sentence, it makes sense, but partial sense, or it is not a full sentence essentially. So if I look at the next example, Ram works at the factory, right? This at the factory, these three words all together are working as an adverb, right? Why? Because it's at the factory. If I ask you, what is this giving information about? This at the factory whole thing is giving us information about where the work is happening, right? Or it is more information about the verb or the action that is taking place. So the idea being that these parts of speech, not only one word but a whole phrase or a clause, could be operating as an adverb or as an adjective or as a noun, etc. We'll come to this idea and cover this idea in quite a lot of detail later. We'll discuss what phrases are, what clauses are, and how they work as adjectives or adverbs, etc. In a later session. But just get the idea right now. Uh, the Mona Lisa is a very famous painting. Now, if I think about it, painting is a noun, right? Famous is modifying painting. So, famous was the adjective. Now, this very famous, very, the word very is modifying or giving us more information about the word famous. Famous itself was an adjective, right? So, therefore, very in this sentence is working as an adverb because it is modifying an adjective. Remember, an adverb modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb, right? Ram works very fast. Now we looked at the example earlier. Ram works fast. Fast was modifying works, right? Fast was giving us quality of the action. Now this very is modifying fast. Fast itself is an adverb. Very is modifying or giving us information about fast. Therefore, very is an adverb, right? Just get the idea here. Adverbs and adjectives are modifiers or qualifiers. An adjective qualifies or modifies only a noun. An adverb works on verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Prepositions. Now, a preposition is a word used with a noun or a pronoun to show how that noun or pronoun stands in relationship to another noun or pronoun, right? Or essentially, how one thing stands in relationship to another. Examples will help us understand better. The file is on the table. On in this case is acting as a preposition because it is giving us a physical space relationship between the file and the table, right? If I see the word on, I should be able to understand that the file is on top of the table or on the surface of the table. I'm using the same words over and over again, but I hope the idea is fairly easy. The file and the table, and where the file is on top, the table will be below the file, just to understand the idea, right? The file is under the table. Once again, the two objects being connected are the file and the table once again, but the preposition under gives us a relationship, a physical space relationship, right? The file is in the drawer. So words like on, under, in, at, over, off, across, before, after, beside, between, up, with, down. So since, for, so relationship of space, relationship of time, or any other kind of relationship that can be established between two things are covered by words of preposition, right? Or prepositions. The last major category or the last major part of speech is conjunctions. Now, these are words which are used to join other words or sentences. So, whenever you want to join two words, now typically it could be two actions or two nouns or two subjects. So, whenever you want to join them together, and in the joining there might be a logical relationship also, a logical relationship, not a relationship of space and time maybe, but more of a logical relationship. Such a word is known as a conjunction. Examples are easy: Ram and Sham. So and is joining Ram and Sham, right? In the second example, but Ram will reach the wedding is one sentence, he will be late is another sentence, but is joining those two sentences without maybe putting a period mark in between, right? The idea seems good, however, once again, however is connecting two separate sentences. The idea seems good is one sentence, it has many hidden flaws is another sentence, however is joining them. Uh, Maybe one thing that you can notice is the difference between an and a but. In and there is an addition, in a but or a however there is a contrast or a contradiction. Okay. Now, uh, I discussed earlier, I mentioned earlier that how a lot of these ideas connect to our other subjects in exams or preparation like RC, reading comprehension, para jumbles, etc. Noticing conjunctions is very very important for your reading comprehension skills. There is a whole session on that. Click on the link and please go through that session. You'll also probably understand why grammar is important for your other subjects. The last part of speech, and this is everybody's favorite and the easiest, not too much to discuss here. These are words serving to show strong emotion. So words like yeah, hurrah. In fact, anywhere there, if there is an exclamation mark at the end, such a word can be used to show emotion. So these are interjections, right? Not too much to discuss here. Okay, that's about it for this session, parts of speech. Take your time, read a few hundred sentences, maybe a few magazine articles, a novel, notice or hear a few sentences of television shows, whatever, and try and see these functions working in the language. Try and notice a few nouns, try and notice a few verbs, try and throughout your day I'm sure you're reading a lot of sentences. So maybe just for 5 minutes in a day or 10 minutes in a day, you can turn on your grammar engine and start noticing these things, like whatever you have learned today, notice it for a day or two before moving on with the subject. Just notice verbs, just notice how adjectives are working, how they're modifying other verbs, other words. Notice adverbs, notice how they are modifying adjectives and adverbs, etc. Notice prepositions, notice how they're connecting two things. Notice conjunctions, notice how they are also connecting two things, but joining two things, and how prepositions were giving a relationship, right? So whatever we have discussed today, observe these in a few sentences so that the idea gets settled into your head, because these basic 8 9 ideas will repeat over and over again in various forms. So these are the basics. It's very very important that you understand them in detail, right? Now, next session onwards, we'll look at each one of them one by one and see how errors can be created and what detail we can get into. So we'll start off with nouns and then go into pronouns, etc., etc. Each one in details, all possible details like gender, cases, and whatever comes up, right, in each category. So that's it for today. See you soon. Have a good day. Thank you.